Hello there, welcome to Saberjewel Gaming, where we always take the high ground. Over the past year, some of my most popular content has been around the original Super Mario Bros. Games, and today we want to take a leap forward to look at Super Mario All-Stars, a retro review of this wonderful game released on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1993. The game brought together enhanced and remastered versions of Super Mario Bros. 1, 2 and 3, as well as introducing Western audiences to the first time to Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, the ridiculously difficult game that was originally introduced to Japanese audiences as Super Mario Bros. 2. Now let's get this out the way first of all. I've already reviewed Super Mario Bros. 1, 2 and 3 in their original format on the Nintendo Entertainment System, so I'm not going to go into a great deal of depth around each of the individual games. I will talk a little bit about the Lost Levels, but we'll mostly be focusing on what this overall package was like for game players at the time, as well as what it's like going back to play it now. Okay, so let's look at Lost Levels first. This is the game that was the bonus content for many Western audiences. They'd never really played this game before. Despite being released in Japan as the original Super Mario Bros. 2, it was deemed far too difficult for Western audiences, slightly patronising and yet also entirely accurate. The game was nightmarishly hard compared to the original Super Mario Bros., so quite frankly I can understand where they're coming from. I've only played this game a certain amount and realistically I've no desire to push further forward with it, but as part of this package it was a pretty cool inclusion, so that's the first thing to mention about the pack. But beyond that, there's no new games. Everything else we've got here are games we've had before. So what was the point? Well, first of all, let's make it clear. The Super Mario Bros. Games 1 to 3 were some of the most popular games Nintendo have ever released. I don't just mean at the time, I mean ever. And in my opinion, Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. 3 were two of the greatest Mario games, greatest platform games, and by God, greatest games ever made. So having those on your console, I don't care if they've been released before, it was definitely worth having. And the package together made it pretty much worth the money. But the truth was, the original Nintendo Entertainment System had not aged very well. The graphics on the original Mario Bros. Games were really quite heavily dated, and there was even quite a lag in the gameplay. Super Mario All-Stars, whilst not really adding any new content apart from the aforementioned Lost Levels, massively amended this problem. The graphics were on par with, if not better, than the much beloved Super Mario World, which had been released just a couple of years earlier. So, for those playing this game for the first time, it looked amazing, and for those who played it previously, it was a whole new lease of life for this series. So how was the game received at the time? Well, mostly very positively. There was some criticism, that being that there was a lack of original content. I don't really understand this criticism because the game doesn't sell itself on being original. It's clearly an update and remastered version of 4 fantastic games, one of which had never been released in the West. So I'm not entirely sure what people wanted. Some people also said that the graphics hadn't been updated enough and they were still very basic, but I think they're missing the point in my opinion. This game is meant to be updating the graphics of the original games, not giving them completely different graphics. The look and feel of the levels is clearly matching the original, but is far more colourful, more vivid and more detailed. Realistically, neither of these arguments stand up to me, but it's a matter of opinion. Aside from these minor and quite limited gripes, most people considered the game something of an instant classic. It garnered scores of the mid to high 90s, and even a couple of technical 100%, getting 5 out of 5. Later re-releases of the game for the Nintendo Wii and the Switch garnered slightly less praise, but I think people misunderstood. Again, these are not meant to be brand new games. They're just for people that haven't played it before, so I think people maybe missed the point on that in my opinion. But What about playing it now? Well, this is probably the easiest I've ever had to do a retro review. It's not even a question. These games stand up brilliantly. The gameplay of the originals from the Nintendo Entertainment System were good enough, but you add the graphics from the 16-bit consoles that both delight from a retro perspective, but are also more than accessible enough for someone who's playing from a modern gaming angle. These are beautiful, they are stunning, they're enjoyable. There's nothing really about them that can be flawed, apart from maybe the fact that Lost Levels makes you want to die. So for me, these games still easily stand up well and deserve an easy 9 out of 10. Absolutely stunning. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this, please consider giving me a subscribe here on YouTube, TikTok or Instagram.